All right, we'll call the Board of Commissioners meeting to order at 10:01. All those who are able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, do we have any public comment for items not appearing on today's agenda? All right, seeing no one. Any additions to the agenda? No? Okay. If the meeting minutes are fine, we'll take a motion.
I'll move to approve the minutes from the meeting held December 3rd.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes for the meeting held on December 3rd. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We'll move on to resolutions. We have Resolution 19 of 2024, acknowledging Center County's participation in a solar power purchase agreement. And our Administrator, John Fronick, will cover some of the details and the large amount of savings involved.
Good morning, Commissioners. Again, as stated before you for consideration is a resolution acknowledging the county's participation in the PPA. The resolution resolves that the county would wish to enter into the solar agreements, and that the resolution would then authorize the county administrator to execute all related agreements and documents which have been reviewed by the county solicitor on behalf of the county. PPA rates and savings are listed on this slide. Staff are recommending for the county to commit 90% of its electricity usage from select county electricity accounts to the PPA. While the remaining 10% is part of the PPA, 10% of the committed amount will be purchased at market rate via traditional grid power. While we keep talking and deliberating about percentages, what the percentage does is it provides a mechanism to identify how many kilowatts of energy that the county consumes that we want to dedicate to solar power. So the percentage is just the mechanism to get to that amount. The total county's usage that we're estimating is around 2,500,000.
And that's counting, and that's taking into effect what we generate at the correctional facility and what we will generate at Center.
So that's
the
a
old
great
center.
question. So what we've done is we've taken any county facility, and there are two, that create their own electricity through solar panels. Those accounts are not a part of the PPA.
I'm
So-
just not, I
Right.
wasn't sure because we really don't know how much the Centercrest facility will generate ultimately.
That's why we just left it out of the equation, because the variables are just too many unknowns on that.
And John, I do notice for note number 3, it says that the cost of outside power would start at 8 kilowatts, 8 cents per kilowatt, and then increase at 1.5% annually. Those are incredibly conservative, because I believe
Yeah.
the estimates we're getting now for grid power are pushing 10 cents per kilowatt hour.
We'll get into that.
And the long-term increase in power before the recent increases was 2.3%. So
Yes.
those are super, super conservative.
Yes, there's a
All right.
depiction of
Yeah.
that.
We'll
It's
let
coming,
you,
huh?
we'll let you
Coming.
about your
All right.
discussion.
Yeah, no, sure. So the total cost of the project that what we'll have in getting to this point is $39,667. And based on our the proposed 90% commitment and the amount of that we are entering into, we would qualify for 7.1 cents per kilowatt. So the year one savings would be just over $21,000, almost $22,000. Average annual savings would be just shy of $30,000. And over the course of the 15-year contract, the county is expected to save almost $450,000.
And
Or
that's-
more.
could
or
be-
more.
That's with pretty conservative estimates about eliminating
Next
costs,
slide will
yeah.
show that.
Yeah.
So here, this slide displays the projected fixed cost of the proposed 90% solar power with a 1.5% annual escalator over the 15-year term. So, switch here. So this lower part, the bar graph, shows what the 90% under the solar portion, how the cost would go. We would start at just over 7 cents, and we would end at just above 8 cents in year 15. Above this, the red line is the trend line for traditional grid power. So while we conservatively started at 8 cents, we're currently north of 9.
Yeah.
So several of the entities have locked in for the next 18 months to get us to the PPA when
Yeah.
it comes online. It's somewhere between 9 and 11 cents.
Right.
But this band that we're showing is basically what we're anticipating is the fluctuations in cost for energy. We feel that it'll bounce around in this area conservatively, but right now we're at just north of 9. So the higher this goes, the greater the savings for the percentage that goes into the solar portion.
So
John-
what we're looking at in year 15 is already a lower cost than what we would get currently on the market.
Correct. Yep.
That's pretty significant.
And so, John, if we were to shift that upper part of the graph to a more realistic scenario based on current prices and more like a 2.3% inflationary increase, we'd be well into the ceiling above the American flag at this point.
Yes.
Yes. Very substantial savings.
Yes. Here are some of the anticipated impacts. When the Solar Consortium was soliciting potential solar development projects, we discovered that one was starting to be pursued right in our own backyard in Walker Township. The MOU for this development will be presented by the county plan reviewer, Chris Schnorr, a little later in this meeting. The project is large enough to handle our group's power needs overall. And having the solar array so near to us is a plus from a functional perspective. Some of the projects were even out of state in Virginia and other areas, so it's a plus to have it so close to us. Moreover, it helps to diversify the Commonwealth's power grid. It also provides environmental benefits while providing noticeable anticipated financial savings to the county while reducing variability and uncertainty in energy costs over the long term. And lastly, all of the effort and lessons learned through this initiative will hopefully establish a foundation for future generations to build upon.
And John, I believe we can get out at the 5 and 10-year points if something completely changes on electric rates. I would doubt it. I think at this point we're pretty happy we're fixing our costs when the variable number's gone up drastically.
Yeah, so the solar portion is a 15-year contract. The traditional grid power is every 5 years, and that is with Direct Energy. So we'll be able to revisit where we're at with energy and costs at year 5. There are a number of documents that go into this. There's the power purchase agreement with the solar generator, an in-schedule implementation agreement with a buyer's transaction contract, servicing agreement, retail commodity master agreement, and a transaction confirmation with the solar provider. There's also a contract with an energy consultant who would monitor our accounts and make sure that everything is progressing nicely and all the arrangements are in working order. There's also an MOU with the solar group, all those that choose to participate, to provide for management of relationships amongst the members. And then finally, there is an amended cost-sharing agreement for the costs that have gone into getting us to this point relative to reviewing and crafting all of the agreements. Any questions?
Great, thanks, John. Wonderful overview. We're probably looking at saving well over $500,000 on our electric rates over the 15-year period, and I'm pretty sure most of our citizens at home don't particularly care where we buy our electric power from. They would just prefer to save the $500,000 and have us utilize that for either no tax increases for 15 years or additional services for Center County citizens, or perhaps even both. I'll hand it over to Commissioner Concepcion for additional comments.
Yeah, so I've been to some degree involved with this effort since it began in 2019 when I was part of the board at the State College Area School District. And I think it's worthwhile to review the reasons that we started looking at this agreement to begin with. The first of which was the idea that by pooling the purchasing power of all of these entities together, that we would have the bargaining clout, essentially, of making such a large power purchase on an annual basis that we would be able to negotiate rates that would be really advantageous for taxpayers. So that was really the first inclination around building a group to purchase power together, was knowing that by pooling all of our purchasing power, that we would have better bargaining power in looking at getting some better rates for all of us together. I think the reasons that this agreement is in the best interest of Center County taxpayers, like clearly the long-term savings are substantial, and that's the primary reason to consider entering this agreement. But the other is that we're really eliminating risks of future cost increases in energy costs and being able to lock in rates that we know are really advantageous for us right now over a 15-year term. We're eliminating a lot of the kind of volatility that can be difficult for local government to absorb on a year-to-year basis. So having that predictability at a rate that we know is really advantageous is just, takes one portion of our budget and makes it predictable and affordable. And we know if we could do the same thing with other costs in the county that we know rise on a predictable basis, like health insurance, that it's, it doesn't, we don't always know how much it's going to go up, but it's always going to go up. We would certainly like to be able to lock in some predictability in any places that we're able to when the rates are good to do so. We've seen tremendous cost savings already with the on-site solar that we have in Center County government. At the the Center County Correctional Facility, we have a substantial array there that provides more than the power needed to power that particular facility, and it's saving us tremendous amount of money. We just reviewed that in a recent meeting here on a Tuesday morning just recently. So seeing that we've seen that kind of savings on-site solar would be interesting to look at how much we can expand solar on site in Center County, but that was part of the consideration with this agreement, was looking at, for each entity, how much space do we actually have to put solar on our buildings, and being realistic about what we're able to do on our own sites. And that's kind of where we get to this 90% number, that by going in for 90%, it seems like a reasonable number, considering, it gives us a little space to, if we want to try and decrease our electric usage to save money in that sense, like we still have a little bit of space to decrease our own usage, and we're not locked in for an amount that maybe we would potentially be able to decrease with some cost savings measures. And then I think the other thing that is really important to make note of is that 2024 is now officially, given the November numbers that have come in, 2024 is now officially the hottest year on record since prior to the Industrial Revolution. And it's the first in which global temperatures have exceeded 1.5 centigrade degrees of warming, and that's from Bloomberg News, and Reuters were reporting that this past week. And so, we are saving money for taxpayers, and we're also considering, resiliency in our community for future generations. So that's where I am.
Thank you, Commissioner Concepcion. Commissioner Dershowitz.
We're saving significant dollars. When you're saving $500,000 over 15 years, that's noticeable money. And if it's $30,000 a year for the taxpayers, that's one conversation to have. The other conversation is when we designed what would be considered, I guess, what the Human Services Building. We don't have a name for the old Centercrest project yet. We indicated that we would have a battery backup plan for over there, and we built that into that system. We do not have that same backup at our correctional facility, and I would like to investigate maybe taking some of the savings that we enjoy from this and applying it to a battery backup plan, because that's a 24/7 facility. That if it were to go, if the grid would go down, we don't know what we do with hundreds of people who are in our care and custody up there, and it would make sense for us to have that conversation. And that's what I'm thinking of the overall energy plan for Center County. But we have enjoyed considerable savings from that project, and I think we will enjoy those same savings over at the Centercrest building. So I think this makes sense, and we'll have more conversation about some of the other conversations. Some of the other issues that are coming up in the later on in our agenda. But yeah, I support this as a cost saving.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Steve. I know when we
agree.
initially looked at the battery backup in 2017, the numbers didn't quite make sense, but there's been some advancement since.
Yeah.
And of course, power now costs substantially more than it did in 2017.
And I'm not sure we need a fully robust, because if you
Yeah.
think about it in a way, we only need it for the dark hours. So we
Right.
don't need to have a battery backup that'll go for
Oh, no.
Right.
for
Yeah.
days. I think we need we need to have just enough to get us through the course of the evenings
Yeah.
and nighttime hours, and then it'll recharge itself during the
Yeah.
day. So
I think that could make
Something
a lot
to
of
think
sense.
about.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's take a look at it. Fabulous. So, again, brief review. With this particular project, we're getting our payback in less than 2 years because we're not having to own the array. And over a 15-year period, we'll probably save well over $500,000 at no real inconvenience to citizens or Center County staff. Open it up for questions from the press.
You're going to discuss this later in the meeting also?
Yeah, we're going to talk about the actual array itself and the land development plan.
I'll wait till later.
Until then? Okay.
Yeah, I think one more thing that's notable is that the members of the working group are not responsible for the maintenance cost of the array. That is on the developer. The developer pays for
Yeah.
any necessary maintenance. We're simply purchasing.
we're just buying power.
We're buying power.
Yeah.
We're not buying an array.
Correct.
So-
Right.
Good point, Amber. All right. Well, unless there's anything else, looks like we could take a motion.
All right, I'll move to adopt Resolution 19 of 2024.
I will second it.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 19 of 2024. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose nay. Motion carries. We'll move on to contracts and authorizations. We have Denise Snyder here from the District Attorney's Office. Come on up to the podium to talk about our Stop Violence Against Women grant.
Yes. So yes, I am Denise Snyder. I am the Stop Grant Coordinator for Center County. And so I come before you this morning to ask the board to consider signing the award letter to accept grant funds from the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, PCCD, for the Stop Violence Against Women grant funding. This funding is for a 3-year period for a total of $375,000. It'll be broken down into $125,000 a year and will begin January 1st of 2025. This funding will continue the strong collaboration between victim services, law enforcement, and prosecution to strengthen services to victims and survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking.
Great. Well, thanks for covering that, Denise. And I think actually we had a person who had been doing some stalking just get picked up yesterday down in Florida.
Yes, exactly.
So appreciate your department's very hard work on that and helping the victims of these crimes here in Center County.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for your support around this too.
And you're still working with the State College Police Department as part of their
Yes.
the
Yep. State
investigation?
College, Police, the DA's office, and Center Safe are part of this grant.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Okay.
funded through this grant.
Commissioner Concepcion, any comments or questions?
No, thanks for your work on
All
this.
right, thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll move to accept the grant funds for the Stop Violence Against Women grant.
I will second it. If Denise, you can tell us how many years we've been doing the Stop Grant program.
I believe it was since the mid-90s.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
I know it's been
That's
as longer than I've been here, so,
Yeah.
yes, well, I will second it. It's been a
Great.
great program.
We have a motion and a second to accept the grant funds for the Stop Violence Against Women grant. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose nay. Motion carries. And now Aaron will move over to the other slide deck, and Chris Schnur will come up and explain the memorandum of understanding with the Confer Solar Project Land Development Plan, which is the solar array that will be used for the solar power purchase agreement. Just sometimes the schedules just come together like this.
They do. Thank you very much and good morning. Before we get to the information, just want to make sure everyone is aware of what this particular MOU means. This is a memorandum of understanding, and this one that's being presented today is a three-party agreement, and it's between the developer, the township, and the county, and it's whereby the developer agrees to reimburse, in this case, Walker Township, for the costs associated with the township's engineers reviewing, processing, inspecting, and approving the engineering details of the plan. The board isn't approving the plan itself.
Right.
This is just the agreement for reimbursement of costs associated with the township engineer and developer's engineer. That's all this MOU is, because each MOU is different.
Right.
Different, and that's what this one is in this particular case.
And I believe we do offer these MOUs constantly
Yes.
throughout the county, maybe outside of the center region where they handle that part of it themselves.
All the ones that fall into the county's jurisdiction
Yeah.
have this particular MOU for plans that have engineering associated with them.
Okay.
And this one does. This particular development, as Commissioner Higgins has said, is for the Confer Solar Project land development, and it constitutes a final plan submission, and it shows the development of a 20-megawatt solar facility along with corresponding infrastructure such as stormwater management, access roads, equipment pads, etc., located on lands of Dietrich along Heritage Lane, which is a private road in Walker Township. And as you can see on the screen, just to give you a snapshot, this is the Hublersburg area, and this is State Route 64, and as you're heading west, you're going to be going toward the Wyatt Zion, and east you're going to be going toward Clinton County, and there's a road called Heritage Lane, and that's the access to get you to the two tax parcels that the Dietrichs own. That is going to be, the developer in this case is a Confer One LLC, and the developer itself is Madison Energy Infrastructure. Now, just to give a closer view using another aerial, this is the Heritage Lane, and these are the two tax parcels that the Dietrichs own that Confer One's Solar LLC is going to be leasing portions of their property for the placement of the 20-megawatt solar facility. And as you can see on the screen, the areas in light blue are the actual solar arrays, with a number of roads that are going to be access roads that are going to be constructed to gain access to the solar facility. In this case, the roads are simply labeled as A, B, C, D, E, and F. Then the access roads, and there's a little bit of a stormwater management occurring roughly in the middle of the proposed development. That's really the essence of the Confer Solar development in Walker Township.
Great. Well, that was pretty straightforward. As you mentioned, it looks like they're using just a portion of the land, not the whole thing at this
Right.
point. And I know that's a scenic area, but it does look like the solar array will not be right on the main roads on either side.
Correct.
All right. Commissioner Concepcion, any comments or questions?
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's often concern about placing solar developments on farmland, and I think I share that concern because we have only a certain amount of farmland in our county. And I think it's a good reason to be thinking about places where we can put solar development that are on roofs and on parking lots and places like that. However, I think it's worth thinking about like the trade-off between a solar development and if you're looking at something like housing or retail space, that this is far more reversible in the future, that someday when these panels have outlived their useful life, that this is still relatively, mostly other than a few access roads, this is not paved over. It's relatively easy to return to that original agricultural use someday in the future, compared to other kinds of development. So, but of course, we're not approving the plan for this.
No.
We're simply approving, what is, I guess, a use by right for this area. So.
Great. Thanks, Commissioner Concepcion. Commissioner Dershowitz.
Well, generally speaking, most of the contract agreements between the landowners and the developers include a a codicil that they will return it at the end of the useful life of the project, which allows me a lot more comfort knowing that it's not like you're putting a housing development in there, which is infinitum. I mean, there's a finite end point to the stability and useful life of these projects, and they will be reversible at that time. And if you can, can you shed any light on that or anything?
In this particular zoning district in Walker Township, it was considered a conditional use. But there's about 24. This actually went to the courts, and there was an agreement between Walker Township and the developer, and there was about 24 different conditions that the developer and the township agreed to. And as part of that, there's a decommissioning plan.
Right. Oh, good.
With the decommissioning plan, there is an escrow account that will be held, so that way these facilities can, then when they have their end life done, then they will decommission them and return it back
to farmland.
Yes.
Good.
I think that's an important point.
That's a
Agreed.
great point. Wonderful. Thanks, Chris. And of course, the owners of this land do have their property rights to be able to utilize that land in whatever method they deem necessary. And as both Commissioner Concepcion and Commissioner Dershowitz mentioned, it is easier to turn a solar array back into farmland than it would be, say, a mall or even a housing development.
Well, I know part of the conversation about the other agreement that we previously approved does provide for those same decommissioning mandates. Am I correct?
Sorry, say that again.
The solar power purchase agreement that we had a discussion about earlier has that same conversation about the decommissioning
I
requirements.
believe so.
Yes.
Well, so thanks very much for covering that, Chris. And it also diversifies our power grid here in Center County. We don't actually have a power plant of any size besides the one for the university within our boundaries. So it
Used to have one in Milesburg.
We used to. It's been gone a long time now.
Yes.
And I believe they did decommission that one. It's mostly open land at this point. Do we have questions from the press?
So Walker Township, zoning provisions already in place to allow for solar arrays?
They have I believe, a standalone ordinance, or Ray maybe will help me. They do have regulations regarding grid-scale solar facilities in their township.
I'm just saying the township has already approved this plan moving forward.
They have not approved the plan. They simply have, they have not approved the plan.
It's a conditional use.
It's a
correct?
conditional use. Then it went to their, I don't know the nuances because this is a local municipality, a local issue when it comes to zoning, but there was a court case that went to the courts, and it was between the developer and the township, and the two entities came up with agreements, and there were several dozen conditions that both parties agreed upon, and that was simply for the use of itself. It wasn't for instance, Walker Township has their own stormwater regulations. Walker Township has their own street standards. It was not for those type of issues. It was simply a zoning concern. And so that they have not approved the zoning, they just approved the conditional use of it.
Does the township have to approve the zoning for this project moving forward?
The Walker Township zoning officer will approve the zoning. He is the delegated individual that administers the township zoning ordinance.
Are they giving any timetable when they plan to consider this?
They have not. I believe they met last night, but I don't know if the plan was presented to the board at last night's meeting or when it will be presented to the board.
The appeal resolution agreement, the last that I was at least made aware of, it included required landscaping, lawn maintenance, stormwater management, and as well as the decommissioning that Mr. Schnurr
In
referenced.
addition, I think there was also requirements for the local fire department to be trained annually on the safety concerns and handling issues out there like that, as well as security fencing as well.
Yep.
Okay.
And of course, solar arrays are very common in other parts of the Commonwealth and quite common in other mid-Atlantic states. Power rates, I think we actually have some of the lowest power rates in the mid-Atlantic region here in central Pennsylvania. Thank you very much to our local utilities. I believe in places like Connecticut, it's about double what it costs here in central PA. So solar is very, very common in some of the other states.
This is just the one project. I remember meeting months ago, there was talk of solar arrays near the Spring Township, Walker Township line. This does not include those at all?
That's correct. There are 2 additional grid-scale solar facilities closer to the Wyatt sign, just to the west, right by the Spring Township, Walker Township line along 64. Those are different projects altogether.
Thank you.
Yeah, solar power is very financially advantageous to the property owner, to the developer, even to the utilities themselves. It's a whole lot cheaper than building a big power plant. Additional questions from the press? All right. Looks like we can take a motion then.
I'll move to add this memorandum of understanding to next week's consent agenda.
I will second it.
We have a motion and a second to add the memorandum of understanding to next week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose nay. Motion carries. All right. Well, thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate your
Thank you.
thoroughness.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Yep,
You
thanks.
too. And now we'll bring Melanie up to the podium from elections for some Help America Vote Act grant funding.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners.
Hi.
I'm asking that you consider the acceptance of the 2024 Election Security HAVA grant from the Department of State. The total is $5,161.23. I do believe we applied for this grant in the springtime, so this is just the acceptance
All right.
of the money. So, and we were able to use this from April 2024 to December of next year. So we can use it on anything security-wise, or anything like new bags for our polling places, or seals, or, so they have a list of stuff that we're able to use this for.
All right. I know this used to be substantially more money back when Commissioner Dersham started, but nice to see we're still getting some funding from the Help America Vote Act. All right. Commissioner Concepcion, anything?
Yeah, thanks for your work on this and getting it to us. I knew there was a tight deadline on this.
Yes.
so.
Yes. Commissioner Dersham?
Yeah, thanks. It's only $5,000, but when I say only, that
But
still is
it's-
significant
No.
money.
Every little bit helps.
But most importantly, thank you and your team for getting through the general election this year. And that was a monumental task, and there was a lot of twists and turns, but you made it happen, and we really appreciate it. I know
Yes.
John and so many folks in our organization worked very hard to make that happen, and I want to thank you all for publicly that we got,
Thank you.
I think, a very successsul election cycle. So.
And not just the
Yeah.
permanent election staff, but a group we call the part-timers,
Yes.
which was dozens of people. And
Are you going to
During-
limit it to dozens?
well, then
I
we
would say hundreds.
Well, we had hundreds of part-timers actually, and some of them, dozens of them, were working more than just election day and the week or two beforehand. They were working for several months. and
Yes.
Some of them were putting in 12-hour days for days at a time, and we really appreciate that.
And I want to thank all of the county staff also that came
Yes.
to help us with everything and answering the phones and everything. So thank you all.
You're welcome.
It worked out.
It did.
Yes.
Yes,
It
that's
worked
great.
out.
It's a huge accomplishment.
Yes. Unless there's anything else.
I'll move to accept the election security grant funds.
I will second it.
We have a motion and a second to accept the election security grant funds. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks, Melanie.
Thank you.
And now Natalie will talk about a local share account contract for Strawberry Fields, which I think I need to sign later today.
You do. Good morning. We are here before you to discuss the local share account contract with the Department of Community Economic Development. So as you've seen me the last few weeks, we've been applying for this year's allocations, but this is coming from last year's grant applications that we submitted, and we have been awarded this opportunity in the amount of $83,390 to partner with Strawberry Fields to do a vehicle program. And so I'm going to let Karen discuss a little bit of what that program is.
Great. Thanks, Natalie. Karen, what details do you have? Because we know Strawberry Fields is a great organization and a longtime partner of the county.
Yes. Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank both the Board of Commissioners and Center County governments for supporting this grant. Your commitment to the community makes projects like this possible, and we are truly grateful for that partnership. My name is Karen, and I am the Director of Intellectual Disability and Developmental Disability Services for Strawberry Fields. Our mission is to empower individuals and enrich lives. The VAN project will provide transportation for some of our most vulnerable individuals, and it will help them get to everyday things like family gatherings, appointments, engage in community activities, experiences that many of us take for granted on a daily basis. It also opens doors to inclusion, providing more community activity and connection for our residents. So it's an investment in our community, building a more inclusive Center County that benefits all of us. We appreciate your support, and the program will help benefit all of our residents with getting them to the places that they need.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Karen, and I'm always happy to partner with our local nonprofits, and appreciate Natalie's work in kind of expanding the county's role in applying for more state grants and making sure that we get our fair share here in Center County.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Concepcion, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, no, I think this is great. I'm so glad that you were one of the recipients for this grant, and it'll do a lot of good for people in our county who have these needs.
Commissioner Dershowitz?
Well, I think Strawberry Fields has been a strong partner with Center County on so many different things for such a long time that it's a fantastic opportunity to boost you guys up, and $83,000. That's really serious money.
Yeah.
So that's good stuff. So congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd like to thank the state legislature for the funding, and I think in a roundabout way, doesn't this come from gambling funds in some fashion?
It does. So there's a statewide allocation that's given out. And I think in last year's, they received $1.3 billion in grant applications.
Not so much resource behind that, though.
There wasn't as much
Yeah.
money behind that. And then certain counties that have, I think, specific gambling opportunities in their county also get an allocation. So we were in competition with really across the state on this local share account one.
We could get it.
Great. Well, thanks again, Natalie, for writing such a strong grant that we did receive the funding. And again, appreciation to our state legislature and the governor for awarding these funds.
Yeah. Strawberry Fields is a partner to be able to put an application together that we needed for the LSA, which is really, I think, valuable. Because really the concept is really making a positive impact on the public is really the groundwork for LSA. So this is a good example of that.
Strawberry
we thought.
Fields has been doing that for
Yeah.
decades. Great. Unless there's any questions from the press, I think we're ready to take a motion.
Okay, sorry. I will move to approve the contract with the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development for the local share account grant for Strawberry Fields.
All right, I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the contract with Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development for the Strawberry Fields grant. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose nay. Motion carries. Great. Thanks, Natalie
you.
and Karen. Moving on to Human Services. Oh, there's Kathy. We've got a couple of different contracts with a few other human service agencies.
Yes, good morning. We are down to just the last few of our contract renewals for fiscal year 24-25. The two that we have for the board today are for the time period July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. The first is a contract renewal with the ARC of Center County. This is for our Intellectual Disabilities Department and is for services including in-home and community support, supported employment, transportation, respite care, and behavioral support services. The contract total is $104,300. The majority of that is state funds, $99,492, and the county match portion is $4,808. The second contract renewal is with Eagle Ridge Personal Care Home, LLC, and that is for our mental health department, providing housing support services, specifically supported living. The contract total is $35,000. The majority of that is state funding, and the county match portion is $1,613.
Great. Thanks, Kathy. And I want to mention to both commissioners the ARC is having their holiday party tonight
Oh, is that tonight?
over at Axman, I think it's 6,
Okay.
for
Great.
their staff and their clients. So thanks for covering that. Kathy, any comments,
Yeah.
Commissioner Concepcion?
No, thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Dershowitz?
I'm all good.
All right, we'll take a motion.
I'll move to add the MHID, EI, DNA items 1 and 2 to next week's consent agenda.
I will second that.
We have a motion, a second, to add the contract renewals with the ARC of Center County and Eagle Ridge Personal Care Home to next week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Medium-
Kathy.
Thanks, Kathy.
you.
Got kind of a medium-sized consent agenda
Mhm.
today.
Yeah, I'll move to approve this week's consent agenda.
I will second it.
We have a motion, a second, to approve this week's consent agenda. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving on to liquid fuels. Coach, you gave us a great presentation last Tuesday with a lot of detail for all the different municipalities that will be assisted. In most cases, these are for projects that the municipalities could not do without the county's assistance. Any questions? No? All right.
Okay. I'll move to approve the 2025 County Liquid Fuels Program and fee for local use allocations.
I will second it.
We have a motion, a second, to approve the 2025 County Liquid Fuels Program and fee for local use allocations. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right.
Good.
Thanks again for all your work on that, Coachy. I know it's
Thank you.
hundreds and hundreds of pages.
Appreciate all your
Moving
help.
on to the check run.
Yeah, so the check that I'll recognize today in the check run is to the Children's Advocacy Center, which provides a one-stop for children who've experienced trauma and abuse to be able to provide their testimonies. And this is really kind of a very innovative and caring concept that we have here in our county that includes the cooperation of a number of different entities. And with that, I will move to approve the check run dated December 6th.
I will second that.
We have a motion, a second, to approve the check run dated December 6th. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Do we have an administrator's report this morning, John?
Nothing to report at this time.
All right. Moving on to reports and announcements. Do we have a voter registration report?
We do.
Oh, we do. All right.
Okay, so today, our total number of voters registered in Center County is 109,934. That's a 114-person difference since 12/3.
Oh, up or down?
I don't know.
Oh,
They didn't
okay.
give me that.
All right.
Yeah. So of those, 45,261 are Democratic, 176 are Green Party, Libertarians are 629. Those with no affiliation are 16,589 voters, and the Republican Party has 44,322 registered voters in Center County. All of the minor parties come up to 2,957 registered voters, bringing us to that total of 109,934. Our party of the week this week, we're starting again at the beginning of the alphabet with the Adarian Party. They have one registered voter in Center County. Our precinct of the week is Precinct 78, Spring Township North. They have 1,695 registered voters. At the presidential election on November 5th, they had a voter turnout of 84%. They vote at the Spring Township Building at 1309 Blanchard Street, and we'd like to thank Spring Township for the use of their facility for elections. So that's the voter report.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Concepcion. Other announcements, Center County government offices will be closed on Tuesday, December 24th and Wednesday, December 25th in observance of the Christmas holiday. Do we have any executive sessions to report or hold, John?
None to hold, however, there are 3 to report on. On December 5th, the Board of Commissioners met from 9:38 a.m. to 9:55 a.m., and then again at 2:31 p.m. to 2:44 p.m. to discuss real estate matters. The board also met on December 6th from 12:03 p.m. to 12:08 p.m. to discuss a real estate matter.
All right. Thanks for covering those, John. Moving on to our public meeting schedule. Thursday, the 12th, we have a combined salary board and board of commissioners meeting at 10. We have the Board of Assessment and Revision of Taxes at 1. And then on Tuesday, December 17th, we have the Board of Commissioners meeting at 10 and the work session at 11. Any additional questions from the press this morning?
Is the county, with the solar proposed agreement, using that to purchase energy or purchase credits?
We're purchasing the electricity. I don't believe we're purchasing any credits. I believe those are stay with the developer and manager of the project, right, John?
Yes, so collectively, the group decided not to purchase RECs directly as part of it, to try to experience the best possible savings up front. However, several of the individual participants may decide to individually purchase renewable energy credits on their own outside of the collective.
I believe the school board has weighed in. Borough Council discussed it last night. Does all the entities listed have to approve this for it to move forward, or do you have enough now for it to move forward?
My understanding is that it is not, everyone would not have to agree to participate in order for it to move forward. There are a couple different levels of consumption usages by the entities. The top 5 would include the school district, the county, one of the authorities, et cetera. As long as the majority of those were to sign on, the project would move forward.
And some might ask, and the county has the solar array at the prison, and you've talked about the money saved.
Yeah.
These are all projected savings. In other words, why get involved with this when you have a system already that has provided huge savings? Do
I
you
think
need
the
this
answer
energy?
is that we don't have more space on county property to build another array of the size at the Center County Correctional Facility. So,
And there are over 30 additional electricity accounts that the county has that range in varying sizes that it would not justify putting individual arrays at different facilities. So this is a way to bundle the rest of the county's accounts.
Examples would be our senior centers, our magisterial district justice offices, some of the 911 towers. We have a broad variety of small to medium-sized consumers of electricity that there's, we don't even own the buildings some of these are in.
And even at the Centercrest project, we only generate a fraction of the electricity that we're going to need to operate that building. So we are not energy self-sufficient at this point, unfortunately.
But the projection is this projected system can work in conjunction with the county already has now.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yes.
The agreements, the documents, will they be posted on the county website?
Yeah, once they're finalized, we can make them available if you wish.
Sure.
And I think I understand conditional use, but again, there's no development or construction or anything until the Walker Township zoning office weighs in.
So it would handle, I would assume, traditional permitting, which would go through zoning and then any type of building permit process that would be out there. So it'd be multiple steps, just like any type of development project.
If it does move forward, what's the timetable now for development? Do you have them?
We are anticipating to be online in 2026. So there's a period of time yet to occur before this would actually be built and activated.
And does the county have any other projected costs, legal or otherwise, with this project?
Relative to review, this agreement would capture all costs to date. So if there were to be additional costs, that would obviously have to be a consideration moving forward. But we're anticipating the costs are just about done.
Great questions, Gary. And anything from Tim? So, unless there's anything else we could go to the order, I think we could take a motion to adjourn, have a few minutes to read emails before our next meeting starts.
Yeah, just before we adjourn, I think we really would be remiss if we didn't thank all the staff who have worked so
Oh,
hard on
yes.
this power purchase agreement over 5 years. John Franek has been, working tirelessly on this. It's been both a combination of moving forward a project that could benefit the county and making sure that there's eyes on it that are being very careful to ensure that it will benefit the county. And that work has been, I think, very careful and deliberative, and I think, I'd really like to thank John for your leadership on this project, and Pam Adams and Randy Brown at the school district as well have done, a tremendous amount of work over the past 5 years that have gotten us to this point. So.
Great points, Amber. We've got such a good team here at the county. We sometimes forget to thank people for
Right.
all of the many, many, many hours of, in some cases, with John Midnight Oil involved. Appreciate that. Thanks, John.
And I think it's, recognizing this has been such an innovative approach. I don't know if there's really any other examples in Pennsylvania of these different governmental entities coming together to pool their purchasing power in ways that, defray costs in quite the way that we've done this here. And
Yes.
So,
Well, I think it needs to also be noted that anytime you get a dozen organizations together, it does require an extended amount of time and effort to get everybody on board. And then you throw COVID in the middle of that,
Exactly.
and it was a process. And we do appreciate your time and effort, John.
Yes.
So, thank you.
with
Great.
that,
Good
I'll
point, Amber.
make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn at 10:52. All those in favor do so by saying aye.
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 Aye, pose nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.